Oh man, all right, they returned that voice, the recording in progress voice. Goodness. All right. Hello, friends. Eddie Chavez Calderon here. I'm so happy to be in community with all of you. So happy to be sharing space with all of those who are on the Zoom call in itself or joining us from the Facebook Live. We are super happy to be in community today on such a great conversation. We are continuing our Jewish Native dialogue with our great friend Rosetta Walker, our amazing support from our friends Jamie, Jean Rivkin, who has just been phenomenal. We know we have more of our team members. Today we have some very special guests. We have our friend Manuel Castro, who's joining us on the call, Percy, who's also joining us on the call today. And we're gonna have a good discussion today. And today's topic is really about community, right? About community and really understanding what does faith mean to us and in both of our communities, and how can we look at this topic to really start to build bridges throughout both of our communities, right? How do we look inward and use this dialogue to push for a deep dialogue, right? But also as well acknowledge the work that can be done and celebrate some great similarities of the cultures. And we also understand that there's blended cultures where we have Jewish native folks as well. So super proud of that. I want to go ahead and introduce my great friend Rosetta Walker, who is a phenomenal human being. Rosetta is an outstanding community member, volunteering anytime that she has to register voters all the way from the streets of Phoenix to anywhere that she is sent. She is happy to participate in her civic engagement, her civic duty, registering voters, engaging her community to stand up and have their voices heard. My great friend Rosetta Walker. Rosetta, do you want to say a couple of things before we get going with our discussion to open us up?
Yes, good afternoon. Rosetta Walker, Sikangu Lakota from the Rosebud Sioux Tribe in South Dakota, living here in Tempe. And I am a community organizer, community activist, and all around volunteer in the community. And I am very, very happy today. I invited two of phenomenal friends that I've known for many, many years that live here in the Valley and are very true traditionalists in their faith. Our conversation today is regarding faith, and we have Manuel Castro, and he is from the Pascua Yaqui community, and we have grandmother Percy Amy. And please forgive me if I've pronounced any of that incorrectly, and she's from the Hopi Tewa tribe in Arizona.
Amazing. So let's go ahead and start this off. Jamie, do you want to go ahead and say a couple words before we get going? A little bit of an introduction as well for yourself. That'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, thanks so much for putting this together and letting me be involved. So currently I live in Flagstaff. I've been here for 15 years and I am working on my PhD in political science. And as a Jewish American, I have research interests in Jewish communities and how we collaborate and interact with other communities. So I feel very honored to be here and to have this conversation with you all.
Awesome. And I want to give a land acknowledgement that I'm calling from the Tohono O'odham region of where it's now called Phoenix, Arizona, in the specific region area that I am. I just wanted to make sure that we give land acknowledgement of our folks who were originally here. I also want, before we get started with the conversation, if my friend Freddy is able to, Freddy, if you hear me, please unmute yourself. There's a reason why I'm wearing orange today, and there's a reason why my friend Rosetta and my friend Percy are wearing orange today. And I would love for my friend and colleague, Freddy, can you let us know why folks are wearing orange today in the Native and Indigenous communities, and why, as an ally in our Jewish office today, why we are wearing orange as well?
Yeah, are you able to hear me well?
We sure are. Take it away, brother.
Okay, September 30th is Canada's first national day for truth and reconciliation. It's Orange Shirt Day. It was created to promote awareness about the Indian residential school system and the impact it had on the Indigenous community, specifically the cultural genocide committed against the Indigenous community. I mean, currently we have 6,509 Indigenous that have been unearthed from unmarked mass burial graves. So in remembrance of the children, we're supposed to wear the orange shirt today. And the origin of the orange shirt day comes from Phyllis Jack Webstead, who shared her story in the school system as a 6-year-old, where she was stripped of her clothes, including the brand new orange shirt that was given to her by a grandmother. The orange shirt now signifies the identity stolen from the Indigenous children.
Thank you so much, Freddy. As an acknowledgement of the atrocities that happened, we wear the color orange today to remember all those children's lives that were lost and to remind ourselves of the horrendous genocides that have occurred to our Indigenous Native communities. That is why we are wearing orange today, and I'm glad to be in solidarity and allyship with the Native and Indigenous community of today. Okay, my friends, we are going to go ahead and start. Let's go ahead and start with the first question. And this will be answered as well. Maybe with Jamie, you can take on the Jewish questions, and our Native friends here can take on the Indigenous questions. What does being Jewish mean to you? / what does being Indigenous mean to you? Is this just one part of your identity, or how do you reconcile your intersectionalities? So let's see, Rosetta, do you want to answer first, and then we'll go to Jamie, then we'll go to Manuel, and then we'll go to Percy.
Thank you. Being Native to me, you know, as a community elder, I'm 61 years old, and it's hard for me to practice my faith being just enjoying the Creator's blessings. The minute that you walk out the door is to see the land. And like you said, you have a land acknowledgement here that we are living on the lands of the Atam and Akmil and Peepash peoples that lived here 1,000 years ago. So being Indigenous and practicing faith here in the city can be a little daunting because you have to seek out people that are practice the like faiths. And when I say seek out, I can go and practice my faith every day when I walk out my front door. But if you want to practice an organized faith, you have to seek out and find those in your community that are having the sweat lodges, that are having the smudging ceremonies, that are, you know, doing the boots on the ground work to keep our community engaged. So in a nutshell, it can be a little hard and daunting for me to do that, but I try to do it on a daily basis the best I can.
Thank you, Jamie.
Rosetta, thank you so much for saying that. That resonates a lot with me because I wasn't raised in a particularly religious family. Like, we recognize our Jewish identity and embrace that culture, but I wasn't taught a lot of the practices and traditions. And so as an adult, I am now learning these things, and I have to do the same thing. I have to kind of seek people out who know more than me so I can learn from them. But it is very intimidating because I worry, like, well, will I be embarrassed if I don't know enough about, you know, what Jewish people do? You know, am I not Jewish enough? Things like that. And so hearing you say like that you also experience that in different pieces makes me feel a lot better. But being Jewish to me, because there weren't a lot of Jewish people in my neighborhood and in Arizona, my model is my family. And so my family is what being Jewish means to me. And my family is very engaged in the social welfare of others and is very giving and generous. And so that's what it means to me, is to take care of yourself, but also take care of others.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and go with Manuel.
The question was, how do I feel being indigenous, native? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
My
the
name's
question, yeah.
okay. My name's Manuel Castro, and I'm from the Pascuayaqui. So I say, Dios en Chañabo, Quechamalia, and that means God bless you guys, and hopefully everybody's well. Myself, I come out of a different background. I say because of delinquency and a lot of darkened ways in my life, that I have a dual type of understanding that, being in recovery for 27 years now. But prior to that, there was a lot of ups and downs with my identity. And as we know that, a lot of us were challenged to be Native American. And I know my parents, my grandparents told me stories about that, of how, we are identified and how the society at large looks at us. So I had a struggle with that notion, years ago. But 27 years ago, like I came into that awareness to accept my identity. I'm half Mexican and half Pascuayaqui. So I kind of like take on that understanding now. So today I'm able to give back to the community in a way to inform, like I'm dealing with the 21 nations here in Arizona. And because of that, I'm able to bring a lot of light, just like they brought light to me 27 years ago, as far as being a Pascuayaqui member and what that means to speak my language and not to be ashamed, not to blend in with other ways of life, but to keep myself true to the way I am. Today I live on the Gila River community here by Zacatone. So I do live on the res, and I see how people go by and look at us. And I mean that the family I live with, myself, that we look kind of like somehow they look across the street because I'm at the border of the reservation. And because of that, I look at a different type of perspective. So every day that I look at myself and full awareness of who I am, as a Yaqui member and also being a spiritual, traditional practitioner, I help people with finding themselves and the challenges that they have to overcome any stigmas. I've been running Sweat Lodge for 22 years now here in the Valley, and I have not stopped. And people ask me, do you accept people that are not vaccinated? That was a new question. I'm like, I really don't know too much about all that, but I know that we live by faith in our spirituality of how we look at things. So I just take it to myself, being true, and then helping others to be true, and then breaking the stereotypes of how people look at us. But yes, that's the way I look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. Let's go with Percy.
No, well, thank you. My name is Percy Ami, and I am from the Hopi Tewa tribe, and I am San Clan. And I think that this topic is very interesting because faith is such a broad subject. Now we can refer it to as a religion, a belief, a faith, a way, a culture. It takes on many different identities. And it's what everybody is struggling with right now. And it basically starts with a basic belief. And what I tell people is that I'm Hopi and I don't point to rainbows. And they say, oh, what does that mean? I don't know what it means, but I know that my grandmother and my grandfather told me I don't point to rainbows and I'm not supposed to, and I don't do it. And so that belief is strong, and that's what faith is all about, is what do you believe in? And it doesn't matter what your God is or who your God is. It boils down to what is the belief. That's what faith is all about, is having a belief in something that's solid, that grounds you. Then you develop that belief is going to increase your faith. And when you increase that faith and that belief, then you create ceremony, then you create rituals, then you create standards to enforce that primary belief that enforces your faith. And I think a lot of people get that confused with, they think faith is religion. No, religion is a totally different subject. You can be very religious, but don't have any faith. And you can have a lot of faith, but don't have a particular religion. So it's a bringing together of all of this. And I have traveled all over the world, and I have seen how people interpret their faith, and they interpret their belief. And these beliefs can be based on human values, or they can be based on very inhuman values. I mean, some people, their belief is not to accept anybody and to not be loving and caring, only to the people that are like them. That's the belief, and that's their faith. But that doesn't work for me. So what do I believe? And it doesn't have a particular stigma to it. I don't carry a cross or a star or whatever symbol that people choose. And I changed that at a moment's notice, like the orange I'm wearing today. And I have a little necklace that has a heart on it with the orange inside of it. And it signifies what we're promoting right now is the Remember the Children. And our group of grandmothers have committed to wear orange for 225 days. Okay, now that's our faith for today. And we don't end this until March 8th. So every day for the next 225 days, we're going to wear orange and black. So 225 is now another symbol for what our faith and our belief is at the moment. That's the number of children now. And the first discovery of children. So it symbolizes something. And to me, that's what faith is all about. And it's that if you stand in it, because I meet so many people that are very religious, but never walk their talk, that preach, but don't adhere to what they preach. I think faith comes from whether you're indigenous, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, whatever it is, choose that whatever you do makes you a good person. That's what I think. And I tell people that faith has a partner. The partner, the opposite of faith is fear. When faith is high, fear is low. When faith is low, fear is high. So it's keeping those two in balance. And I am very much a traditional person, and I practice the Hopi way. And that is my religion, that is my faith, that is my culture, that is who I am. And thank you.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I really appreciate that wisdom, and really following along those lines. How does faith really transition into action and transition into tradition? How does that identify in your own community? And we can go on the same route, or if some of you feel inclined to answer, if not, we can go on the same order. So if not, let's go with Rosetta as well.
I'm going to pass on this question to the next person, because I really love the dialogue that my two friends here have. I admire them so much that they took the time to, it was the random reach out for me to ask them to come on to today. And I really appreciate you taking the time out. So I'll pass on this to my guests.
Perfect. Manuel or Percy, whoever feels inclined, please go ahead.
What was the question again?
How does faith transition itself into tradition for you, and how does that look like in your own community?
In my community of Guadalupe, that word Pascua for my tribe means Passover in your culture of the Jewish people. So that point that, I guess in the story, when the death angel was going over the village, they would get that blood and put it with the hyssop leaves around the doorpost for that angel to pass over. So that's what that word Pascua means in my tribe. So we're a few of natives that we do have Catholicism real strong in my tribe. So every year we take out what they call the Quaresma, the Lent season, I'm like a kachina in my tribe. So when when I put myself or other members into our ceremony, we could do it out of ritual or that it could take on a place of faith. So it was just like the story I just mentioned with the Jewish people. They could have did it out of just to say, okay, I'll do it. Or some people do it because of faith. So like they say, without faith, it's impossible to please a creator. So like within our tribal ways, I notice people around me, even where I live at right now with the Akamil Atam, they do a lot of things that it could be of a tradition, but there's some that have that little spark that they call faith. That faith, you could see it in people when they believe in something, they're passionate about it. It overrides a lot of the different things that we're going through right now in our society at large. So that's what I tell the people, my audience that I deal with, recovering addicts and alcoholics. You got to have faith. You could say what your elders say because you're from a tribe and then be somehow monotonous about it. But when you have faith about it, it sparks something else in an individual to see the hope in something, because that's what faith is. It's having that hope. So I say to myself and at the society at large, we got to have this faith system going, regardless, like my sister Percy said, regardless of whatever culture, native, non-native. But the point is, us as human beings, we have to believe. We have to believe in something. If not, life is monotonous, kind of like just going through the ritual of something. And to me, I'm so much in ceremony with a lot of my tribal members around, with Apache, Dene, different people, that I could see people doing some ceremonies because their elders tell them to, and that's what they were born into. But there's some that do it that have that faith or that spark, that hope in it, that it's, something's going to help them to get them out of whatever situation or mindset. And that's where I look at myself, being a tradition, helping people to have faith, not so much to say, oh yeah, I got to believe in Jesus Christ, or you got to believe in the way of the earth, or it's just that people have something, and that's the way I kind of look at it.
Thank you. Percy?
I think that when the way that you develop the tradition is like, faith is all about setting your boundaries. It's about what you will do and what you won't do. And that's what it boils down to, is that you create that for yourself. One of the questions that when I do a lot of work with the youth, and my biggest thing is suicide prevention. And when I'm talking with the young children, I ask them, what's the one thing that I could teach you that you would feel is very important? And I get, more often than not, I am asked, can you teach us how to pray? And that question in itself, it encourages me, but it also disappoints me, I guess, not discourage me, that we are not teaching our children how to pray. They have to find somewhere else to find how to do that. And when they can create that, when they can create what it is that there is a creator beyond their existence here, that takes a lot of faith for children to look at. There's something beyond my boundaries, and that's where faith comes in. And if that belief is strong enough, then that's where, like I said, you develop your rituals and your traditions, and that's when it becomes a tradition. That's when the boundaries are set. That's when the protocols are put forward. This is how we behave. It's like in anything that we do that we treat as being sacred. I mean, if you go into a sacred circle and you know the protocols, that is what faith is all about. I enter the circle from the east. I walk this way. I exit this way. There are certain protocols, and it's not because it's going to do something magical. No, it's all about faith and believing that if I do it this way, then I will have a blessed life. I will be honored. I will give honor to Creator. I will be respectful. And that's what all our traditions and our practices do, is to build character, is to build that, in our way, in the Hopi way. We have a ceremony where when the kids enter the ceremony, they are not allowed to speak about the ceremony. The ceremony in itself is not really very secretive, but the challenge is building character. Can you be silent about this ceremony? Can you honor and be quiet that you are not to share this only with certain people? That's building character. And that's what tradition is about. That's how we've been able to survive all these years, is the respect that we have given to the animals, to the land, and to ourselves. And that's where tradition starts. And that's what we're built upon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jamie, you want to say a couple of words?
Yeah, thank you, Manuela and Percy, for sharing. I'm really moved right now by your vulnerability and your wisdom. That means a lot. When I think of tradition, I feel like it's a way that connects me to my heritage, my people, real people from my culture's past that are maybe no longer with us, but they did these same things. And now I'm doing them too. And that's what keeps our faith, our culture, our ideas alive. And I feel very privileged to have an opportunity to practice Jewish traditions, because not Jews around the world haven't had that privilege that I had and that I have. Just to tell a quick story, my grandparents live in New York City, and they've lived in the same apartment my whole life, but it wasn't until I was older that I saw on the door frames into the bedrooms, there's evidence that there was a mezuzah, with the case there, but it's been painted over many times. And I feel like that's telling and saying something, that we don't want to be painted over. We want to continue our tradition. So I have my mezuzah at my front door. And Percy, like you said, I'm not expecting something magical to happen, but I feel very connected now to Jewish people of the past because of it. And that's very meaningful to me, and I imagine meaningful to other people as well.
Thank you so much. Such powerful wisdom in this great conversation. And I think that this also draws a line to, like, what are some common misconceptions that people have of folks who are walking with the spiritual path of faith, or say, what, like, faith really guides me. What are some common misconceptions that we see in the community? Let's go ahead and start with Percy and then Manuel.
I was like, I hope he doesn't start with me.
Oh no.
No, but and unfortunately, because I do travel with a lot of healers and spiritual people, even in a group of spiritual people, there are misconceptions just within that group. And then it brought out beyond that, because even that fact that we can create miracles, or we can do something beyond this lifetime. And that is possible. There are people that can do certain things in another dimension, and I have seen that. But I have never experienced it. And I always tell people that, I travel with grandmothers that have seen visions, that have a special calling, that can do healing. And I'm waiting for mine. I'm waiting for my vision and for my miracle, and it hasn't come, but I still do the work. But it's all about the misconception that sometimes my father, who was a healer, he wasn't a medicine man, he was a healer. He worked with bones. And he would have people come to him, and they would ask him, can you come work with my mother or father or brother, sister who's in the hospital. They need help. And he would say, no, I can't. And I would say, why are you doing that? You've got the ability to help them, because their faith right now is in Western medicine. And I can't cross that line. When they have released that, then I can come in. And I think a lot of times people think that, and he used to tell me, you never mix medicine. Don't mix medicine. You know, if they're doing Western medicine, let them go down that path. And when they no longer believe in it, then I will come in and do mine. But it's all with what we do in our mind. The belief is the healing, not the healing in itself. The healing is the method, the hands-on, but the belief comes here. How strong do you believe this? And that's a misconception that people think. They think they don't have to do anything, that the healer has to come in and do it for us. It's just like modern medicine. If the pill is going to work for you, you can't sit there and look at it and say, okay, do your job. You got to do something with that pill. You got to ingest it. So it's like that. I see that misconception all the time with spirituality. It's like, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be transformed. I'm going to be enlightened and I'm going to be this person. No, it takes work. And the more that you are going down a spiritual path, the more challenges you will receive, because it's all about building up your ability to transform. And I tell people all the time, you need to create a practice. Practice being a professional, happy human being. You got to create that. You know, athletes do it all the time. They create the athletic ability by practicing. How about us as human beings? Why don't we practice being happy, being joyous, smiling? I mean, you should do 70 smiles in a minute, you know, see how fast you can do those. I mean, it's like, create that practice. That is where spiritual traditions and how we become good people. You know, practice not judging people. Practice letting people be in their own space. I mean, there's just so much that we as personal human beings have to do, but yet we want somebody else to do it. Well, it's their job. You know, you need to come over here and put that pill in my mouth, pour water down my throat, and then it'll work. No. You got to believe first. And people have been healed by placebos because the belief was so strong. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that great wisdom. Manuel?
Well, I believe one of the biggest misconceptions I get as a practitioner is that we don't have like issues that go on with ourselves or around our circles. So a lot of times, you know, I see that people will say, well, how come that tragedy befell, you know, whatever it is. And it's like, you know, the gift that one has as a medicine person or a healer, that's just all it is, the gift. You know, I had a great friend out there in a White Mountain Apache, an elder, he done pass. But I remember I used to talk to him quite a bit, and I would tell him like about certain things, and then he would turn around and said, well, a person's a person that has this ability to offer to the people, whether to heal, to bring them medicines, you know, but a lot of times they're just a person. That gift is given by the Creator. And it's like, it's up to us to hone down into that gift. So the people I deal with a lot of times, they're gifted, but they don't know it, you know, until they start coming to give themselves to ceremonial. And then there's like an avenue that opens up for a person. Next thing I know, I see heat on their hands. You know, they're able to have a great communication skill. My great grandmother was a healer. she used to be a midwife and help back in the days when they didn't have a lot of the hospital services in our communities. She would travel around, but she was also an herbalist. So she taught me a lot about the herbal way of life. And today I practice like that, the herbal way of life. I don't like to go to Western medicine much, but I tell people the misconception that one has is that not everything's gonna go great for us. It's like they say, how can a person know healing, not unless you've been sick at a time. So a true healer will understand what true sickness is, because that's something that we're gifted to understand. In my dysfunction that I had prior 27 years ago, I knew I was called, but I didn't know how until I put myself into like ceremonial ways, prayers, my culture. And as I focus in on them things, it's like something else came to me to help me to have a perception that was stronger than I thought it could be. And when that occurred today, I travel all over for prayers, for house blessings, for helping people get out of their body to go into hospice, to go on into the spirit world. I'm always around little children that are having a hard time, and through prayers and ceremony, they're able to come out of it. But I always tell people the misconception is that I have something. And I tell them I am nothing without the Creator. It's the Creator that gives one and gives you the ability to know what you know, and the adornment on that, to make it look attractive to others, to say, yes, this makes sense. So as one practice this way of life, of healing medicines, it's like it was mentioned that we got to continue that to get it more stronger for ourselves. I know anytime I leave this way of life, the red road we call it, and I start practicing anything else, this gift is going to start getting smaller and smaller. Pretty soon I'm going to be ungrateful, and I'm not going to have gratitude of what the Creator's done for me. So that's why every day, these traditions, our culture, ceremonies, they help us to get into that atmosphere. But until it was mentioned that belief system occurs, and then that's when the light bulb is turned on to say, yes, there's a possibility that there's something else. So when they call me into houses to do house blessing, a lot of times I tell the immediate family to sit down, and then I tell them what's going on in this house. And they'll start telling me, and I say, okay, is it all in agreement that you guys want this thing to leave your house? A lot of times, kitchen cabinets closed, drawers closed by themselves, and they don't know what's going on. But as soon as I walk in the house, there's a gauge within myself that I could take the temperature of that house to understand what's going on. Because that's the gift the Creator gives one if you submit yourself into these ways of life. And that's what our elders always told us, to pay attention. Don't bite off more than you could chew. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Be grateful, walk in a good, humble way. And in our culture as natives, humility is a strong gift that we have. So I never think to myself that I'm prideful, that I know everything, that I look down to others. Even when I teach, I do not stand up. I sit down with my clients. I never stand and hover above anybody, because we're all equal beings and we all have a gift of some type to give to this society at large. And I'm always sensitive like that. And like they say, if I got nothing to share that's good, why I'm going to even talk about it? I might as well sit back and listen and just receive, and maybe somehow I'll get an understanding for myself. But that's the misconception I see around me with people that walk in faith, that yes, we could help move mountains, but it's still within my vulnerability to have doubt, to question myself in this, world, and my gift and what the Creator gave me. But because of those inadequacies, I lean more towards the Creator, and that's how the Creator blesses me more. So I never look at myself any other way to say, okay, I'm just a child of the Creator walking on this earth, the humblest I can, and to know that I have a gift in my life to disperse to the people. And that's just, kind of looking at it at a general type of way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jamie, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, Misconceptions, I feel like the Jewish community, I don't like speaking or making generalizations, but this is kind of our number one issue is misconceptions from people who don't know any Jewish people or don't have any Jewish friends or don't know what most Jewish people are like. So they gather their interpretations and perceptions from media, news and, even movies, things like that. And so, but the way that Jewish people are portrayed in media doesn't necessarily really align with what most folks identify as. And so it's a constant battle, I think, the stereotypes and the misconceptions, and a lot of them are really very dangerous and harmful. And it really saddens me how much anti-Semitism has risen in the last 5 years, and I think it's all due to just misconceptions and not knowing. Somebody doesn't. Most people don't hate something that they know. It's fear, it's the unknown that triggers that hatred. And so that's kind of why I'm getting, not kind of, that's really why I'm earning my degree. I want to contribute to the narrative that fights those misconceptions and those stereotypes that can be so harmful. And living in Arizona, a lot of my friends, I'm kind of like the token Jewish friend. And so even within just that small interaction, just those interpersonal, there's misconceptions even there, and they do know me. And they often assume that I know everything about Judaism and that I can answer any question. Oh, you're Jewish, you must know this. Or, oh, you're Jewish, you must do this or that. And, I can share my own experience, and I can share, my family, this is what we do, but, not all Jewish people know each other, right? We're not like this one community. It's that's another misconception. Like I get the whole, oh, well, you don't look Jewish. It's like, well, Jewish doesn't look one way. It looks lots of ways, with diaspora, and we are worldwide, and we are all different. And yeah, just getting to know people and not making assumptions. It's not always natural for people, but that's the kind of practices that I hope to foster and to share.
Thank you so much. Phenomenal answers on everybody, and I concur with what everybody was saying. And this also draws up to the emotions that I'm feeling right now. Is how do you all feel when people say that you aren't enough? And I'm really echoing from what Jamie is saying, is like when folks are saying, well, you aren't Native enough or you aren't Jewish enough. What are some guides or tips that you would give to somebody who's saying, well, I don't feel like I'm enough of my identity? And we can go ahead and start with whoever feels inclined to, no specific order. Rosetta,
Well,
please.
I live here in Arizona, and growing up as a young person, Native person, I'm from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, my mother's tribe, and my father was from the Rosebud Sioux tribe, those biological parents. But I grew up in foster care. I grew up in a white foster care home. Me and my half sister, Debbie, we were both placed in the same home, which was a blessing in itself, because most of the times when Native children are placed in foster care, they're separated from their siblings. So being enough was introduced to me at a very, very young age, because I was not enough white, because I lived in a foster home that was white parents. So the white children didn't want to have anything to do with me because I lived with white parents, even though I was Native. And the Native kids didn't want to have anything to do with me because I lived in white foster care. So being enough what? Enough white? Well, I'm not white. Being enough Native? Well, I'm Native, 100% Native, but it wasn't enough. And that's growing up with having to always, what I call ride the fence. I grew up riding the fence and jumping off whenever it was convenient to either be Native or convenient to having lived in a white home with, white foster care parents and living in that culture and environment. And so it's hard when I was growing up that I had to find who my parents were. I had to find out my biological parents and my biological makeup and seek out my traditions, seek out my faith, seek out what I believe in today. And I'm still not enough some days, it's true, 61 years old and I'm still not enough Native, because I married out of my culture. We have one daughter who's mixed. She's African-American and she's Native. She's Rosebud Sioux, my tribe. So that's a dilemma that, we've been placed in when we have intermarriages. It's like, when are we enough? I feel I'm enough, but sometimes the outside forces dictate to you. It's like, well, she's not enough because she's only half. She's not enough because she's this and that. And that comes to you from your allies. That comes to you as lateral oppression. So always having to kind of rise above it and just have that own conversation with myself saying, I woke up today, I'm breathing, I'm beautiful, and I am enough.
Oof, that gave me chills. Thank you so much. Feel free, folks, whoever wants to follow that up, although that would be very, very hard. So anybody who feels inclined, please.
I'll say I get clients today from reservations that are half. They're either half Mexican and half some other tribe. So I was in class the other day and a young boy told me that, a teenager, I'm half Dene and I'm half Mexican, Nakai, they call it Nakai. And I said, like, what does that mean? And he goes, I don't know. That's what they tell me all the time, that I'm a half breed, and so I told him, what do you think you are? What do you perceive for yourself? I said, do you acknowledge your clans, your 4 clans, because that's how they do it. He goes, yeah. And I say, wow, it's up to you how you want to think about yourself. Because I know a lot of natives that don't practice a culture, but they're native. They don't do no ceremony. They don't talk no language, but they got a BIA card, a tribal card, and so I really don't know what to think about this. I just tell myself the arena that I'm around with native, they identify, even though some of them are half-breed, and myself, I'm a half-breed, but I don't say too much about my Mexican culture, even though I do talk Spanish, and my tribe is from Mexico, Mexican Indian, they call it. So, but in my eyes, I don't look at it like that. I deal with white people all the time that practice native culture. They come to our teepee ceremonies. They come to my sweat lodge. I don't think nothing about them. They just like what we have to offer. And then I get some Africans, the same thing. They're half African and half Lumbee from North Carolina. And I'm like, what do you call yourself? I'm just half Native and half African. So it's hard to distinguish, but I think our society at large will put us inside of some type of box and say that's what we are. But I always, myself, I don't think too much about it, as far as seeing an individual. And I don't see them struggling much. Either they identify with their Mexican side or their native side. And there's some people that want to be like that. So that's their prerogative to do those things. You know, myself, when I was young, I grew up like a Mexican in Southern California. My mom passed away. And when I came back to my community as a young boy, Guadalupe, I didn't even know what I was. You know, they said, no, you're Yaqui. And I said, well, I thought I was a Mexican, a Chicano, they called me, a Chicano guy. And my elder said, no, you're Yaqui, you're Yoeme, you know, and I'm like, okay. From that day on, you know, I never questioned who I was, even though I was part of something. So anyway, that's just a thought I have about it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, this has been one of the things that's been kind of in the air for me, is that when I'm teaching the people that are struggling with being enough or not enough, it's like you are a whole person that's made up of different parts. And that's who we all are. We're fragmented into so many different parts, because I have grandchildren that have Hopi, Tewa, Navajo, German, and it's in Mexican. So it's like they get it from all sides. It's like people expect you to be to honor one way, and if you don't, then you aren't that. And when I was in Germany, I had the privilege to meet with people who were German and Polish. And you talk about an identity struggle, because they were perpetrators and they were victims of the Holocaust, and they have to deal with that division, and people still pin that on them. In the Americas, we always have to deal with native and non-native, mixed blood, half-breed. And I'm just getting to the point where we're just whole people. We're whole people, and we're made of wonderful different parts. And you know what? I agree with you. I am not enough. There's so much more of me that has to be explored. So thank you. Yes, I am not enough. I still have so much more to learn. I have so much more that I want to gain, until I just don't have enough room for all the enough stuff that I have to carry. And it's like, it's not an argument that that I personally want to engage in. I want to recognize people for who they are. And if they want to call themselves whatever they want to call themselves, because I do a lot of work with the LGBTQ community too. So it's like, they also struggle with identity. And you think you're an identity crisis, you look at them. Do you think they want to choose that? No, this is who they are in their heart. So it's like, let's start looking at the heart of what people want to be known as, and allow them to be that. You know, and so I am stereotyped all the time, wherever I go. You know, they say, oh, how, you know, I get that, you know, when I travel around the world. And I said, no, we don't do that anymore, you know. And they say, do you still do rain dances? Yes, we do. As Hopi people, we still do rain dances. And so it's like, well, how do you expect me to behave? I'm not going to do that for you. I'm going to do what's right for me. And if we can teach that to our children, to our grandchildren, and say, just be okay with who you are in your body, because you are enough. But is there room for improvement? Yes. So yes, I'm not enough. And I'm not going to take it as a negative comment. I'm going to take it as, you're absolutely, and I want to keep growing till I am enough. But it's all about how we choose to interpret things that are said to us. And I think that if we can help our children understand that, then these identity crises become our own personal, what we want to be. What is it that you want to be? And then you find like-minded people and you hang out with those type of people. So I'm not enough, but I love who I am, and that I am going to try to be enough.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I'm going to gain weight though.
Thank you so much. We have 2 minutes left, and I want to respect everybody's time. Jamie, do you want to say something really quickly right before we close?
No, I feel like this has been very therapeutic because this is something I do struggle with. So all of your advice has been so meaningful, and I'm taking it to heart truly. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. My friends, what a wise group of words and group of people that we have had the honor today to have conversation with. What a blessing to bring in our day and to close off this evening for folks who are in Arizona or the East Coast. We appreciate you. I see my friend Alice is here with us today. We appreciate all of you who are watching. We hope that you listen to this video and start to think inward, as a lot of us have really taken affection to the words that were said here today. I want to thank all of my friends and our guests who joined us today, from Rosetta to Manuel to Percy, for the great wisdom, and Jamie for everything that was shared. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your time. And may we have the blessing to be able to talk again. Take care, my friends. Goodbye.